Conference play is here. First conference game of the season for the number one team in the country. That's the Purdue Boilermakers. They are on the road against Northwestern in a game that, if you don't remember last season, they lost this game. This might not be as easy as it sounds. I got Connor Hope here from Heat Check CBB with me. He's been helping us do all these previews and recaps over the last week and a half or so. We greatly appreciate his efforts. Carter Elliott, Purdue fans, if you're looking for him, he's still under the weather a little bit this week. So it's been a by-committee approach to try and replace your superstar, but the Heat Check boys have been doing a fantastic job. So Connor, I see you're ready to boiler up tonight. You got the Purdue hat on. Are you expecting domination from the number one team in the country in this spot?
I am. I am. I think it's a combination of knowing that they had that loss last year. The only reason I would give Northwestern a shot is because it is a conference road game for Purdue. So you're not going in and it's kind of just we're going to try and win a non-con game or it's a bye game at home for Purdue. This is a conference road game. Obviously the first one of the season for both schools. But I think for me, the difference in this game really comes down to you don't have Chase Audige anymore for Northwestern. Purdue got more athletic on the wing with Lance Jones. And I think the combination of that, the getting rid of probably the most athletic player on Northwestern from last year, adding to the athleticism of Purdue on top of what they do, which is so great. Braden Smith almost getting a triple-double in their last game. Zach Edey obviously having a clear advantage over every team in the country at the 5 spot, but especially Northwestern. I just think this is one of those games that if you're Northwestern, you're not happy with a single-digit loss, but if you lose by single digits, that's something that some people might come away impressed with.
100%. I think the story of Northwestern's season to this point, honestly, has been like, they've had some impressive results, but for the most part, like kind of rocky road until the Northern Illinois win, which was like super decisive. But for some reason, people kept kind of coming away like, oh, Northwestern might have something in a 4-point win at home against Western Michigan. And I've watched as much of Northwestern as I can this year. I love Boo Buie. For those that don't know, he is essentially my favorite player in the country. Until Doug McDaniel actually became a player in the country, Boo was my favorite player in the country. I still think he's as good as ever, if not better than he was last season. But when you watch this Northwestern team, it does feel a lot more one-dimensional. And it's not fair to say that because I think Brooks Barnheiser's gotten a ton better. I think Ryan Langborg was a good add, but they really do miss Chase Audige so much, and I never expected I would say that. I'm about to do something crazy for the first time on this program. Purdue fans are going to be shocked. Going into a game, I expect this to be a huge Lance Jones game because I think he's going to draw the Boo Buie assignment. And I think he's going to do well with the Boo Buie assignment. Like, he's big, he's physical. Boo's going to have to go one-on-one with him for 40 minutes. And I think by the end of those 40 minutes, he wears down a little bit. Lance's shot has been super hot lately. So am I off base in thinking that Lance Jones will be the difference here?
No. And I was big on Lance Jones going into that Gonzaga game too, for similar reasons. He's probably the most athletic player. I mean, Boo Buie is pretty athletic, but Lance Jones is probably the most athletic player on the floor in that game. When he can get force turnovers and get going, that Purdue offense is near unstoppable. Like, if you can get out in transition with Lance Jones, and then your backup plan is to go into a half-court set with Braden Smith and Zach Edey, the combination of that, to me, just makes Purdue probably the scariest team we've seen offensively in a while. And so I don't hate the Lance Jones thing because, yes, Lance Jones is going to pull the Boo Buie assignment. And even if it's a Andre Iguodala in the NBA Finals against LeBron James type of performance, that's what Purdue, I mean, that's really, if he gets that, then Purdue's winning this by double digits. Like, if he forces Boo Buie to be 35-40% from the field with a few turnovers, even if Buie scores 17, 18 points and Lance Jones only scores 6, like, that's what Purdue is going to task Lance Jones with. And I think he's up to the task in this one.
Yeah, it's like you don't fully just shut down a player like Boo on a team that uses a player like Boo the way they do. Like he's their engine. If he misses his first 6 shots, he's taking 6 more shots.
Right.
And I'm with you. I think Lance can make his life hell. He can make this one of his hardest games of the season, if not the hardest game of the season. And it still might be 22 points for Boo Buie, but that probably could still mean good things for Purdue. Also, dare I say, I'm literally thinking this on the fly. The player that Lance Jones reminds me the most of in recent memory is Chase Audish. Now that
Kind
we
of.
talk this through,
Yeah.
you're like the shot selection never fully makes sense, but he's like this really good defender, and he's kind of just a chaos agent. And in the end, when you put him with a point guard that knows what he's doing, it really works really well. Whereas if he was like the offensive centerpiece, it's a disaster. I might run with that. He might be. I don't know if it's a poor man's Audige or if it's like a better Audige. We might need to wait and see by the end of this season.
Lance Jones had a relatively poor, like I wouldn't even call it relatively poor. He had a pedestrian Maui Invitational.
Yeah.
When you look at the numbers, he flipped the Gonzaga game, and his 3 at the end of that first half against Marquette ended up being, probably the difference in that game. Right, the second half probably plays out differently if they're up by 3 fewer points, but he made that 3 at the end of the half, and they won by 3 points. So it ended up being one of the critical plays, and it was just a heave. So Lance Jones has been that player. My brother, who goes to Purdue, calls him his GOAT. He's enamored by Lance Jones because he makes all the plays that you really wanted David Jenkins to make last year that just didn't happen. David Jenkins would make huge plays when Purdue was up by 15, but Lance Jones makes critical plays when Purdue needs it in crunch time, down in the second half, etc.
Yeah, he's just so different than the guys that Painters had off the bench or at the 2 guard in the last couple of years. And I say off the bench, even though I know Lance Jones is a starter, because to me, I think he was brought here to play the backup guard role that David Jenkins played last year. And then the ball got rolled out at practice, and it was like, wait a second, that guy's clearly one of our best 5 players. And now Painter has to go small, and here we are. They're a much better team for it. So a couple superlative type questions for you here. Boo is one of my favorite players. Like I said, I think coming into the season, I had him as the best point guard in the Big Ten. I think he had All-American potential, depending on how good Northwestern ends up the season. I still feel that way. Braden Smith has been better than most people realized he would be this year. I say most people because we've been singing his praises on this program for the last 6 months. We're not that surprised by what he's been doing. Just for this season, not for 3 more seasons in Braden's case, but just for this season, which point guard would you rather have as your point guard?
I'm still rolling Boo Buie over Braden Smith. Braden Smith's been fantastic, but he's also not the focal point for opposing defenses. You're still trying to double Edey when he gets the ball in the post. He still has the enigma that is Lawyer, out at the 3-point line. Lance Jones obviously is incredibly athletic, and if you leave him alone, he's going to put up 10 to 15 points on you. So I think Braden Smith has been really good at maximizing what he's been asked to do. But if I had a collection of 4 random players on the court with either of these guards, I'm picking Boo Buie every time.
Yeah, I still think that's my answer too, but I feel a lot less easy about it than I did at the beginning of the season. And it's a testament to what Braden's become. I really do. Like, it's weird to sit here and say I'm salivating over a sophomore point guard, but like, I can't wait to see what he looks like 2 years from now. I just think it's going to be so different than what it is now. And it could be great. It could be worse. I expect it's going to be great, but he really knows how to play off of Zach Edey better than I think any player in the country could. Like if you watch him intently with a focus on him, he will pass up open shots that he hits at like an 80% range right now off the dribble for that little elbow jumper. And he'll just throw Zach Edey open because he knows the angles and he knows how to get it to him even when he's in traffic. And they're just such a fun match. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, imagining what would Boo Buie look like next to Zach Edey is something that breaks my brain. But to me, yeah, like if you flip situations, Boo is not offensively behind Braden at all. Braden on this Northwestern team would be fascinating. It could be disastrous. It could be really good. It'll be something we see in the future, I'm sure. So last thing for me matchup wise on this, I'm with you. I expect Purdue to roll here. It's a road Big Ten game. You never know what's going to happen there, but they've just been such a wagon this year against the spread and in general. And this Northwestern team, if they have one major weakness, it's teams make threes against them at like an insane clip. Like teams are shooting 38.5% against them on the year, and they really haven't played any great offenses to date. Purdue's third in the country in 3-point shooting right now. And I don't know how sustainable it is. For me, speaking for me personally, I'm buying that it's sustainable. I think the guys that are making shots are guys they added to the team. Do you agree with me that the shooting is sustainable?
Yeah, I do. And we saw early last year, Purdue was making shots. And it looked like they hit a wall sometime in the middle of the season, and the confidence plummeted from their shooters. And you saw that in the NCAA tournament, where none of their shooters wanted to shoot in that game, even if they were wide open. And I think the confidence you see from their shooters, even Fletcher Lawyer, when Fletcher Lawyer is not hitting any shots and then comes back and has a massive game, to me spells they're going to be shooting well all year. And it's going to make Zach Edey's life a lot easier too, because now you can't double him as easily because you always have 3 to 4 shooters on the floor for this Purdue team, where last year you might have 2, like you had Gillis and Lawyer, and sometimes you'd sprinkle in a Smith or Jenkins here and there. This year, I think Zach Edey's going to have a lot more space. The shooters are going to be a lot more confident. They're sophomores and juniors now, as opposed to freshmen and sophomores. And Lance Jones has been there, done that. So he brings a certain level of confidence as a grad transfer as well. So I like this Purdue team, and I think they continue their hot streak from 3.
I'm right there with you. And yeah, if Northwestern was a little feistier defensively, I would be a little more worried about it, but I think they're going to get a lot of open shots in this game. And if they're getting open shots from the perimeter, I don't know who beats this Purdue team. So last question on this. Do you have Purdue's schedule in front of you, or can you get it in front of you?
I have it in front of me right now.
Where's their first loss?
Oh, geez. The easy answer is Arizona, because I think that's the most likely situation. I think Umar Ballo has enough to slow Edey down. And Arizona's guards look really good, but man, having that one so close to home for Purdue,
it gets interesting after that, because you start to look at the teams they play on the road. They're not playing a great team on the road for a while here.
Is it like we hope Michigan gets hot and Michigan beats them at home at the end of the season?
That's what I'm saying. Like, so it sounds insane to say. And somebody in our Discord left a comment for tomorrow's podcast episode. It's like, what odds would you need to bet Purdue to go undefeated and run the table? And I'm like, starting to actually think it out, and I'm embarrassed to say the odds I would take them at, because like you would have to parlay every single game the rest of the season on the money line. It would be way worse odds than the number I'm like ready to bet them at. But look, Alabama and Arizona is tough back to back. They could lose to Northwestern. They could lose any one of these games. It's Big Ten play. Weird crap happens. But I don't think Alabama's very good. And Arizona, while yes, Arizona's great. I think they're one of the 3 best teams in the country. I still think Purdue's better. And like you said, it's close to home. It's not in the West Coast. So I start to go through the games, man. I know they're going to slip up somewhere. Teams just don't run the table anymore these days. But like the one I have circled literally is at Illinois on the second to last game of the season. Like, it's crazy we have to wait that long for a game I'm worried about for this team.
Yeah. Yeah, and you look at the KenPom doesn't have a single game where they're below 60% to win, which is crazy to me.
Insane.
And like you said, because I liked Alabama coming into the year, and I still think they figure it out. But the one thing Alabama does really well is get second and third opportunities when they miss shots. And you're not getting a ton of second and third opportunities when Zach Edey and Coffin Wren and Braden Smith on long rebounds from 3 are on the floor. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's probably Arizona or bust at this point.
Crazy to say, it really is. But Purdue fans, you're spoiled. That's what we're trying to tell you. And enjoy every second of it. This team is awesome. We'll be here to recap the Purdue Northwestern game as well. Stay tuned for that over on the Sleepers Media YouTube channel. For Connor Hope, I'm Greg Waddell. We'll see you next time.